Here's what he said in 2001. I cannot in good conscience support a tax cut in which so many benefits go to the most fortunate among us at the expense of middle-class Americans who need the most tax relief. And then, of course, a few days ago, we had somebody else from the McCain campaign, Carly Fiorina, repeat what John McCain has said, that we have to have those tax cuts now, that we couldn't afford tax cuts in 2001 because of deficits, but we can afford them now. Do you think we can really afford tax cuts in 2008?
John McCain has a plan to bring the budget to balance by 2013 by doing what he wanted to do back in 2001, which is control spending, be a little careful with America's money. I mean, we're spending money hand over fist. I'm an economist. I can't even count how much money's been spent in the past 8 years.
So can we afford the tax cuts now?
Look, we've got an economy that's raising about 19% of America's income in federal taxes. Americans don't need the federal government taking more of their taxes. They need to be able to go out, have a vacation, send their kid to college, take care of the necessities at home.
Can we afford to extend George W. Bush's tax cuts?
We've got a tax system right now. Top rate's 35%. We've got dividends and capital gains of 15.
But no, I'm asking the question, a yes or a no. Can we afford to extend George W. Bush's tax cuts?
This is all about how much you spend. I mean, you do this in your life. If you spend the money, you might put it on a credit card, but you're going to pay some point. So it's how much you spend. And, John McCain's got a great record of using the taxpayers' money wisely. So that's what we need to do.
You're saying we can afford, just a yes or no, we can afford to extend George W. Bush's tax cuts?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in 2001, when Senator McCain voted against George Bush's tax cuts, he said we couldn't afford it because it would create a deficit. In 2001, we had a $155 billion surplus. This year, in 2008, when he now supports the tax cuts, as you know, we are moving towards a $300 billion deficit. How can we afford tax cuts in 2008 with a $300 billion deficit that John McCain said we couldn't afford in 2001 when we had a $155 billion surplus?
Look, the guy's a pretty good forecaster, right? He ran in 2000 on a tax cut that put the middle class first in line, protected Social Security, and had strict spending controls. What did we see? Social Security wasn't protected, no control on spending. So, let's do it right the next time. He's committed to taking care of important problems, and that means having the economy grow, letting people have a job, and bringing the budget to balance.
But again, you can understand why it'd be confusing to Americans that John McCain said we can't afford tax cuts in 2001 because of the deficit, and then the deficit's about $400 billion worse 8 years later, and he says, okay, well, forget what I said in 2001, now we can support it.
Oh, no, I think if they had just given him the controls in 2001, we'd be fine. But the American people didn't. Now they have a chance to give a man who, will fulfill his pledges to the American people, will take care of their business, and will, keep the economy going and have a balanced budget at the end of it.